Last June, a gardener in Ohio spent $800 having English ivy professionally ripped out of her front yard. She had planted it 4 years earlier as cheap, low-maintenance ground cover. It cost her $3 at the garden center. It cost her $800 to remove. The plant is still sold at Home Depot right now. This is not a rare story. These are the plants that look like a deal at the nursery and turn into one of the most expensive mistakes you will ever make in your garden. Every summer, millions of homeowners walk into garden centers and make the same purchases. The tags look great, the prices are low. The plants look lush and full. What the tag does not tell you is that some of those plants will take over your entire yard within 3 years. Some will spread into your neighbor's property. Some are banned in multiple states. Some will cost you hundreds of dollars and weekends of backbreaking work before you finally get rid of them. And some will never fully leave no matter what you do. Garden centers do not have to disclose any of this. They are in the business of selling plants. The more you buy, and the more problems those plants create, the more products you need to fix those problems. Herbicides, landscape fabric, professional removal crews. It is a cycle that costs the average homeowner far more than they ever expected when they grab that flat of ground cover or that pretty flowering shrub on impulse. Today we are going through 11 plants that belong in this category. Some of them are plants you have probably seen 100 times. Some might already be in your yard. And if they are, you are going to want to know what you are dealing with before it gets worse. Number 11. Wisteria. Walk past a mature wisteria in bloom and it stops you cold. The hanging purple flower clusters are genuinely beautiful, and the fragrance is something most people only experience once before they decide they have to have it. The price at the nursery, usually somewhere between $10 and $20 for a young vine, feels like a steal for something so dramatic. Then it grows. Wisteria is one of the fastest growing vines in North America. Under good conditions, it can put on 10 feet of new growth in a single season. It wraps around downspouts, porch columns, deck railings, and fence posts. It gets under siding and lifts it away from the house frame. It will find gaps in gutters and pries them apart. It will kill mature trees by girdling them, essentially strangling the trunk with its climbing stems over several years. The root system is tenacious. If you cut it down, it comes back from the roots. If you use herbicide, you may need multiple applications over multiple seasons before you see real control. Professional removal of an established wisteria, one that has been growing for 5 to 8 years, routinely costs several $100s depending on your region. And that assumes the vine has not worked its way into the structure of your home or outbuilding. If you want the look of wisteria without the destruction, American wisteria, species Wisteria fruitscens, is far better behaved than its Asian counterparts. The Chinese and Japanese varieties are the ones that cause the damage. Check the tag before you buy. American wisteria should be printed clearly. If it just says wisteria, walk away. Number 10. Burning bush. For about 3 weeks in October, burning bush is genuinely spectacular. The foliage turns a vivid scarlet red that looks almost neon in afternoon light. It is one of those plants that homeowners have used for decades as a hedge or a foundation planting. Because it is cheap, it is tough, and it delivers that annual fall show. The problem is what it does the other 49 weeks of the year. Burning bush spreads aggressively by seed. Birds eat the berries and deposit the seeds in woodlands, meadows, and natural areas surrounding your property. In those environments, it outcompetes native plants, forms dense thickets, and degrades habitat that local insects and birds depend on. It is now banned or restricted in multiple northeastern and midwestern states, and those restrictions are expanding. In Connecticut, it is banned. Massachusetts banned it years ago. New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Ohio have listed it as invasive. If you are in one of those states, it may already be illegal to sell. The practical problem hits your wallet directly. You spend $15 on a burning bush, plant it, and it looks fine for a few years. Then you discover your state has listed it, and you have a moral or legal obligation to remove it. Or it starts spreading into the back of your property and into the neighboring fence line, and you have a neighbor problem. Either way, you are pulling it out and starting over. That is money and time wasted. If you want reliable fall color from a hedge or foundation shrub, native chokeberry, Aronia arbustifolia, gives you red fall color, berries birds benefit from, and no invasiveness concerns. Fothergill is another excellent alternative with exceptional fall foliage and none of the spread problems. Number 9. Also sold as Bradford pear. This one has become a genuine crisis in American suburban landscaping. The Callery pear was planted by the millions across the United States starting in the 1960s because it was cheap, it grew fast, it had beautiful white spring flowers, and it seemed like the perfect street tree and yard tree. Nurseries loved it because it propagated easily and sold reliably. Homeowners loved it because it looked great for the first several years. Then two things happen. First, the tree develops serious structural problems. The branches grow at tight angles from the trunk, which creates weak attachment points, and the tree splits apart in ice storms, windstorms, or just under its own weight as it matures. You come outside after a heavy snow and half of your tree is lying in the yard. Second, and more damaging from an environmental standpoint, Callery pears cross-pollinate with one another and with wild pear relatives to produce viable seed. Those seeds sprout everywhere, and the seedlings have thorns. They form impenetrable thickets in fields, roadsides, and natural areas. Missouri has moved to ban the sale of Callery pear. Other states are in various stages of restriction. Some states are now paying homeowners to remove them through tree replacement programs, which tells you everything about how serious the problem has become. If you want a flowering spring tree at a similar price point, serviceberry, also called amelanchier, gives you white spring flowers, edible berries, fall color, and no invasiveness issues. Native redbud is another strong alternative for zones 5 through 9. Number 8. Bamboo, specifically running bamboo varieties. Every few years, bamboo makes a comeback in garden center popularity. It photographs beautifully. The idea of a fast-growing privacy screen that looks exotic and requires no maintenance sounds wonderful. The price is attractive. You bring home a few containers, plant them along the fence line, and watch them fill in over the next couple of seasons. Then your bamboo reaches the other side of your yard. Running bamboo spreads through underground rhizomes that can extend 6 to 10 feet from the parent plant in a single year. They go under fences. They come up in the middle of your lawn. They come up in your vegetable garden. They crack driveways and sidewalks. They push under concrete patios. They come up on your neighbor's side of the fence. Bamboo is also extraordinarily difficult to kill once established. Standard herbicides are minimally effective. You have to starve it by continuously cutting all new shoots until the root system exhausts itself, which takes years of consistent effort. Professional bamboo removal is expensive. Depending on the extent of spread, removal crews may need to dig down 18 to 24 inches to pull rhizomes, haul away significant volumes of root material, and then treat the area. Homeowners report spending hundreds to thousands of dollars removing established stands. If you need a fast privacy screen, clumping bamboo species do not spread by rhizome. Fargesia varieties are cold-hardy, attractive, and stay where you plant them. They cost a little more at the nursery, but that extra cost is nothing compared to what running bamboo can cost you. Number 7. English ivy. We opened with this one for a reason. English ivy is the plant that most clearly illustrates the budget trap. $3 at the nursery, $800 to remove. The numbers are real. English ivy grows horizontally across the ground, which is why people buy it as ground cover, but it also climbs. And when it climbs trees, it adds so much weight to the canopy that trees become susceptible to storm damage. It blocks light from reaching the tree's bark and creates a humid environment that promotes disease and harbors pests. Ivy-covered trees frequently decline and die, and when they fall, you have a tree removal cost on top of everything else. On the ground, established ivy is a haven for rats, snakes, and other pests because it creates dense, impenetrable cover at ground level. It outcompetes everything growing near it. Getting rid of it by hand requires pulling every stem and root crown, and any piece left behind resprouts. Chemical control requires repeated applications and often still leaves you with manual cleanup. The extension programs at multiple land-grant universities have documented English ivy as invasive across a wide range of conditions, and it appears on invasive species lists in numerous states. It is still sold at every major garden center. Native alternatives for ground cover include wild ginger, which is slow but controlled, Pennsylvania sedge, which spreads gradually and stays at about 6 inches, and green and gold Chrysogonum virginianum, which has small yellow flowers and covers ground without taking over. If you are already gardening on a budget, subscribe for more stories like this. We cover money-saving garden strategies every week, and there is plenty more coming up. Number 6. Mint, planted directly in the ground. Mint is not invasive in the ecological sense that ivy or burning bush is, but it will take over your garden bed just as thoroughly if you plant it in the ground without containment. Mint spreads through aggressive underground runners called stolons, and it does not slow down. A single plant purchased for $2 or $3 can colonize an entire raised bed or garden section within 2 growing seasons. The frustrating part is that mint is genuinely useful. Gardeners who plant it usually have legitimate reasons. They want fresh mint for tea, cocktails, or cooking. They want a deer-resistant, aromatic plant for a challenging spot. The plant itself is not the problem. The planting method is: container planting solves this completely. Plant mint in a pot and sink the pot into the ground, leaving the rim 2 inches above soil level. This stops the stolons from escaping. You get all the benefits, none of the spread. But every year, thousands of gardeners skip this step, stick it in the ground, and spend the next several seasons fighting it back from areas where it absolutely does not belong. Other aggressive herbs in the same category include lemon balm and catnip, both of which will spread vigorously if planted without containment. Number 5. Trumpet vine, also sold as trumpet creeper, Campsis radicans. The photos of trumpet vine always look fantastic. Big orange-red trumpet-shaped flowers all summer long, loved by hummingbirds, covering fences and walls in a dramatic cascade of bloom. The garden center price is usually quite low. The promise of hummingbird traffic is real, and then you find out what trumpet vine does. Trumpet vine spreads by root suckers that emerge from the soil sometimes 15 to 20 feet from the parent plant. They come up through lawn grass, they come up in planting beds, they come up through cracks in patios, they come up in your neighbor's yard. Cutting them back only temporarily stops them. The root system goes deep, and individual sections of root left in the ground will resprout. It also climbs with adhesive discs, like English ivy, and those discs cause real damage to wood siding, mortar between bricks, and painted surfaces. Getting trumpet vine out of an established garden is a multi-year project. You dig, you cut, you apply herbicide, you wait, and you repeat. Many gardeners describe it as one of the biggest gardening regrets of their lives. The hummingbird appeal is real, but native coral honeysuckle, Linicera sempervirens, provides the same summer-long hummingbird interest with none of the invasive spread. That is the swap to make. Number 4. Japanese barberry. Japanese barberry is sold widely as a low-maintenance shrub with attractive foliage that comes in green, red, or burgundy depending on the cultivar. It tolerates shade, tolerates poor soil, and handles neglect. Deer tend to avoid it because of the thorns. All of this makes it sound like a great choice for a difficult spot. The problem is that Japanese barberry is invasive across much of the northeastern and midwestern United States. Birds spread the seeds prolifically, and the plant naturalizes in woodland understories where it alters soil chemistry in ways that benefit deer ticks. Research documented at the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station has established a measurable link between dense Japanese barberry infestations and elevated tick populations in those areas. That alone should give any gardener pause. It is banned in New York, Pennsylvania, and several other states. The bans are expanding as more states recognize the ecological impact. If you plant it today and your state adopts a ban in the next few years, you will be removing it at your own expense. Native alternatives that give you similar compact shrub form and seasonal interest include dwarf fothergilla, native spicebush, or native inkberry holly. All three are genuinely low maintenance, none of them are invasive, and none of them carry legal or ecological risk. Number 3. Purple loosestrife. If you have ever driven past a wetland or roadside marsh in late summer and seen what looks like a beautiful purple flower carpet spreading across the water's edge, that is purple loosestrife. It is genuinely gorgeous from a distance. It is also one of the most aggressively invasive plants in North America. A single mature purple loosestrife plant produces enormous quantities of seed each year. The plant spreads by those seeds and by root fragments, and once it establishes in a wetland or along a waterway, it forms monocultures that crowd out native cattails, sedges, and other wetland plants that waterfowl and wetland wildlife depend on. It has devastated wetland ecosystems across the Great Lakes region and the Northeast. It is classified as invasive across most of the United States and banned for sale in most states. But you can still find it, or plants that closely resemble it, at some garden centers and through online vendors. If you have a wet or boggy area in your garden and you want summer purple bloom, native blazing star, Liatris spicata, is spectacular, wildlife-friendly, and completely well-behaved. Number 2. Kudzu, and the plant sold right next to it. Kudzu has spread across vast stretches of the southeastern United States, growing under ideal condition rates that can outpace anything else in the landscape. It covers trees, power lines, abandoned buildings, and road signs. For most gardeners, it has become synonymous with invasive disaster. But kudzu is rarely sold at garden centers anymore. What is sold, often without adequate warning, are several other plants in the same aggressive spreading category. Japanese honeysuckle is still widely available and causes very similar problems in woodland edges. Porcelainberry is sold as an ornamental vine and naturalizes aggressively. Chinese wisteria, which we covered earlier, belongs in this tier as well. The pattern to watch for is any fast-growing vine that promises rapid coverage with minimal care and comes from Asia or Europe. That description fits a lot of plants in the invasive problem category. When something promises to cover a fence in one season, ask yourself why it grows so fast and what is stopping it from growing past the fence. The answer is usually nothing. Number 1. Autumn olive and Russian olive. These are the plants that catch budget gardeners most completely off guard because they are sold with genuinely appealing benefits. Autumn olive, Elaeagnus umbellata, and Russian olive, Elaeagnus angustifolia, are nitrogen-fixing shrubs. That means they improve poor soil on their own without fertilizer. They grow in compacted clay, in drought conditions, in challenging roadside environments where almost nothing else survives. They produce small berries that wildlife eat. They are fast-growing and provide quick screening or windbreak coverage. For a budget gardener dealing with a difficult site, they sound like exactly what you need. They are classified as invasive and restricted or banned for sale in many states, and in natural areas they have demonstrated the ability to fundamentally alter ecosystem dynamics because their nitrogen-fixing ability changes the soil chemistry of native plant communities, giving invasive plants an advantage over natives that evolved in lower nitrogen conditions. They are not just a nuisance, they actively remake the landscape around them. If you have a genuinely difficult site with poor soil and need a fast-growing screen or windbreak, native options that handle challenging conditions include native elderberry, native arrowwood viburnum, and in the South and Midwest, native roughleaf dogwood. None of them will alter your soil chemistry, none of them will create legal liability, and all of them provide real wildlife value. All 11 of these plants share one feature. Every single one of them looks like a deal. The price is low, the growth is fast. The problem arrives later when you have already moved on to the next season, the next problem, the next project. By then, the plant has established itself well enough that removal is no longer a simple task. Garden centers operate on a business model that is not aligned with your long-term interests. They sell what grows fast, what looks great in a pot, and what has broad appeal. Whether it will still be welcome in your garden in 5 years is not their concern. It is yours. The single most effective thing you can do before any plant purchase this summer is to run the name through your state's invasive species list. Most state extension programs maintain these lists and keep them updated. It takes about 45 seconds, it costs nothing, and it can save you hundreds of dollars and years of frustration. That research habit, more than any specific plant recommendation, is what separates gardeners who work smarter from gardeners who keep feeding the cycle that garden centers profit from. The information is there. You just have to use it before you buy. For more strategies like this, subscribe to the channel. We post practical, money-saving content for real gardeners every week, and we never recommend a plant we wouldn't put in our own yard.